Today's lesson is on coordinate systems, and it will cover pages 149 to 151. Question 1 will be quite similar to yesterday's assignment. It'll start by asking you to find the coordinates of the points. So for each letter, you'll need to find the letter on the graph and then find its points. So here's A. We always start with their x value. So we go down. It's in between -8 and -10, so it's -9. And if you go across to the y value, it is, oh, you know what? They have miswritten this one. They say that it is +5, which would be up here, but it's actually +3. So there is an error in your book that you will need to be aware of. A should be -9 and 3 because it is up with this spot here that would just be right in between 2 and 4. So when you're looking for B, here's B, so we start with our x value. So even though we're below it, we'd go up, so what is your x value, and then go across to your y value. And so you'd always put it in the xy order. Then they'll ask you to plot and label the remaining points. So for I, 8 and 4, 8 is your x value, so we'll go across to 8, and then we're going up to y4. So we come up here, and you can see that's where it matches up with 8 and 4. So you'd put your dot there and label it I. For question 2, they're going to ask you to plot a set of points. So you could choose to use a couple different colors if you want, or just make sure you go in a row and you can kind of do A and B together. So the first part is that you are plotting all of these points. So you go x2, y -2. Now when they say x2, y -1, it won't be on kind of the corner of a grid. It'll actually be on the line because 0 and -2, well, halfway between that is 1, okay? And then 2 and 0, 2 and 1, 2 and 2. And then part B will ask you to connect them with a line. And you're going to have to say which axis is it parallel to. So remember, parallel means it's like train tracks. So they run alongside each other. They never get any closer or farther apart. So if you're going straight up and down, it will be parallel to the y-axis. If you're going side to side, pretend I drew straight lines here, then it might be parallel to the x-axis. Question 3 asks you to add a point D so that the 4 points form the vertices of a rectangle. Remember, vertices are the 4 corners. So where would you have to put D so that it helped to make a rectangle? So you would plot it there, and then your job is to write the coordinates of the vertices. So you notice here, A is not sitting directly on a corner, but it's about here. So they've kind of charted it out and gone, okay, this is like actually 4 different spots. You'd have like 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So each of these would be like a different point. So it's actually in line with 13. And up here, it's in line with 11. So you can use that information to help you figure out where all of the points should be. Question 4 gives you several points to plot on the grid, and then they want you to identify what polygon, what multi-sided shape you have drawn. So they've done A for you, -24 and +28. So 25 would be right in the middle, so 24 is just to the side of that, and then it's 28, so that's why it's just below and not right at that corner. So B, you'll have like 10 and 20, C, 13, and -10, so just think of where you're going, and then we've got 21 and -2. So you have to see what kind of shape do you end up with. A, B, C, D is A, and so is it a quadrilateral, is it a pentagon, is it a special type of quadrilateral? You decide. Question 5 is basically the same question, but they haven't supplied the grid for you. So you're welcome. If you have graph paper, try and use it. Sometimes you can print off graph paper. If you're working on an iPad, you might be able to change your pages to look like a grid so that you can draw your graph that way, or do your best with lined paper to come up with a solid graph. So you're locating the points that they have labeled for you, connect them, and see what kind of shape it is. Question 6 starts by asking you to plot 2 points, so point P and point Q. So P is 3 and 2, so here's 3 and 2, so you'd plot it there. Q is 3 and -1, and then you're drawing a line PQ. When it asks you to draw the line, you're basically drawing a line from one dot to the other for the 2 letters. Then you have to decide, is the line you drew horizontal or vertical? So remember, horizontal is side to side, vertical is up and down. So write horizontal or vertical on the line. Extend the line and draw 3 more points on it. So if we had a line that was going here, you would just draw it longer and find 3 different points on it, and then write the coordinates for those points. Compare the coordinates. What do all points on line PQ have in common? So is there one number that's always the same for them? Part B asks, can any point on line PQ be in the second quadrant? So if your line is going over here, here's your first quadrant, here's your second quadrant. Can any part of it be over here? Well, if the line goes straight up and down on this side, you may or may not. Is the point 3 and 1742 on the line PQ? So it would have an X value here, and then it would go up really high over here. Would it still be part of that line? How do you know? And then plot 3 points on line PQ that are below P on the grid. And what can you say about the Y coordinates below point P? So below this, what can you say about all of the Y coordinates that are going below it? Question 7 basically has a second set of graphs and numbers, but is essentially the same question. So I won't review that one with you, but if you need to set up a Zoom call with me, that's fine. Questions 8 and 9 also have very similar structures, so I'll just go through question 8, and then you can do question 9 on your own. We might see things like instead of going left to right, you might be moving up and down for question 9, but it's the same concepts. So the first job is to plot the point P, so that is 3 and 2 on the grid, and then draw a vertical line through P. So wherever your point is, you're drawing a vertical, which should be an up and down line that goes through it. Choose 3 points to the right of the line. So if your line is here, it could be any 3 points over here. Are there X coordinates greater than 3, equal to 3, or smaller than 3? So their X values, are they 4, 5, and 6? Are they 3, or are they less than 3? Choose 1 point in each quadrant to the left of line V. So you would need 1 coordinate in quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, but all of them have to be to the left of that line. And then you have to say, are there X coordinates greater than 3, equal to 3, or smaller than 3? Without plotting the points, say where the points are relative to the line. So if we had a line over here, then the point R, which is 2, 2, would be to the left of the line because 2 is less than 3. And this line is on X equals 3. Okay, so for each of these, you're saying, is it to the left or is it to the right? And then how do you know? Because the X value is more than 3, or is it less than 3, or is it equal to 3? Will it be on the line? Once you have answered these 4 questions, then you will actually go and plot these 4 points to check whether you were correct. So question 9 is going to do the same thing, but it might ask you to do more going up and down, and you might have a horizontal line instead. The final question is question 10, and as you can see, it has several parts to it. The first part is to find the coordinates of the vertices of the square. So remember, vertices are corner. So here's A. What's the X value? What's the Y value? Write it in. Here's B. What's your X value? What's your Y value? C, X, Y, D, X, Y. Then describe the location of the point in the square relative to its sides. So use the words left, right, above, and below. So any point inside the square, so in here, is which direction of the line BC? So this is the line BC. So any point in the square has to be to the right of this line. You have BA. So if it's in the square, is it to the right of BA? Is it above BA? Is it to the left of BA? Or is it below BA? Okay, and you do that for each of the lines. For part C, you use your answers to part B to fill in the blanks. Any point on line BC has an x-coordinate of, so here's line BC, it has an x-coordinate that is -4 because it's all in line with that. So any point inside the square has an x-coordinate that is greater than -4, right? Because here's the smallest number. When you go to the right, the numbers get bigger. Any point on line BA has a which coordinate that stays the same. So the x value isn't the same all the way across the line, but the y value is. So this would be a y coordinate of 4, +4. So any point inside the square has a y coordinate that is less than 4 because it has to be below it. So you'll go through that for each of those points. D says any point xy inside the square must have an x coordinate between this and this and a y coordinate between this and this. So your x coordinates have to be between here, and your y coordinates have to be between here and here. So just kind of figure out what those coordinates are, and then use your answer in part D to say whether these points are inside or outside the square. So E4, well, is 4 between -4 and +6? Yep. And is 2 between -6 and +4? Yep. So that one could be in the square. Okay. There will be a Google form with a few questions for you to try out and show me what you know. But if you need any help, as always, please reach out, and I'm more than happy to set up a Zoom call with you.